Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Training for Practitioners. We are talking functional anatomy of the sacrum today. I can hardly wait to get into this with you guys. I'm happy to have you all here with me. Lori and Natasha and Joshua and Gary, thanks for being live. I know there's a couple more of you coming in. Welcome to Tuesday Training. We are talking today about functional anatomy of the sacrum. And this is kind of our theme for the next few weeks here as we've been exploring the sacrum, and there's lots to cover. And we've got the Sacred Sacrum course also revving up and ready to go. For those of you I have not yet met, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Your host for the next hour, I'm Gina Schatz. Hello, Natasha. I'm glad to have you. It's nice to see a fresh face. Yeah, who am I and how do I have the rights to be up here to talk to you? I'll tell you. I am a board certified integrated bodywork therapist. I have been at this practitioner game for about 31 years, so that's a long time. And all that means is that I'm committed. I've been here for the entirety of my career. And now, in addition to working clinically, I'm also committed to sharing with all of you, lovely manual and movement practitioners, what it is that I do still as I work clinically and how I get to the answers pretty quickly. So that's what we do here on Tuesdays, is we just spend a powerful hour together talking shop. Hey, Rhonda, I'm glad you're here. And before we get started, because we are diving into orthopedic and therapeutic work, it's worth it to say that while I'm sharing with you how I work clinically, none of what I'm sharing with you is a claim that it should work for you or that it's even replicable to anything that you're working on. This is just for discussion purposes only. There's no clinical claims here while we work together for the hour. That said, I do have lots of fun information to share with you. And sacrum is one of my favorite topics. So we're back to sacrum again today with a slightly different angle than we've been for the last few weeks. We're talking functional anatomy of the sacrum today. Whoop, whoop. Here we go. Nice to see you, Perry. I'm glad you're also here, Rhonda. Hi, everybody who's come in since I was in the middle of my jam intro. Okay, so for those of you who have been filling out the pop quizzes, I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying them. I love sending you guys pop quizzes because I think I've said this a few times. I love to see how smart you are, and I also love to see your answers because it helps me know where we can fill in the gaps, if you will, which is again what I'm here to do, to share more information with you. Hey, Cheryl, glad you're here. And this one was a biggie. So for those of you who are keeping track, and if you're not, that's okay. It was pop quiz number 2 on the sacrum. We sent it out, I think, in last month's newsletter. If you're not getting those newsletters, let me know, and we'll definitely make sure you get them. And the pop quiz asked, what is the functional role of the sacrum in the body? So last week here on Tuesday Training, we talked about the structure that the sacrum is part of, which brought us into a beautifully delicious and unscripted, unprepared, well, I was prepared, but unscripted conversation on tailbones and tailbone breaks and the sacrum and how it affects that. That was awesome. And so this week, we're focused on a different quiz, the functional anatomy of the sacrum. So I'll remind us again, in case it's been a minute since you've seen that quiz, and you might want to just jot down like what you think your answer is today, or what your answer is today, not what you think, but what your answer is today. So the question was, what's the functional anatomy? Wow. Let me start over. What was the functional anatomy role of the sacrum in the body? Options were muscle attachments and nerve endings, motion and strength. Number 3, stability and balance. So number 1, muscle attachments and nerve endings. Number 2, motion and strength. Number 3, stability and balance. So they were all sort of like a 2 for answer. And then number 4 was number 2 and number 3, if you thought it was 4-part answer. So muscle attachment and nerve endings, number 1, motion and strength, number 2, stability and balance, number 3. Number 4 is both 2 and 3. So what do you think the answer is? What do you know the answer to be? You obviously know something or you wouldn't be here. And my intention for today is to pour into you in the places where there might have been some gaps, which again is why I'm super grateful for you guys filling out those quizzes, because it helps me know like where I can be in service to you. So I love when the quizzes are filled out, and I'm not even disappointed if, you didn't get 100%. It's all good. It's actually perfect. So do you guys have your answers? Did you write down what your answer was for today? Okay, I'll tell you that I won't call you out on it unless you want to be called out on it. That's fine. Some of you are brave hot seaters, and I know that. I'm not going to do that necessarily. But I will say that as I was reading through the quiz answers, almost 45% of you answered number 4, that it was B and C. Like almost half of you who answered said that, and a couple hundred people, was that it was motion, strength, stability, and balance. Cool. Only 4% said that it was motion and strength, though, which then now the math doesn't make sense. Like you thought it was both, but not one. And then I thought, well, okay, because more than one answer is possible. Maybe you all thought that it was, some of you who thought it was motion and strength didn't think it was stability and balance. Okay, cool. We're still working through the analytics and figuring all that out. However, it wasn't many more who guessed it was number 1. Number 1 would have only been number 1. It wouldn't have been packed in with a bundle answer for number 4. So very small percentage of us guessed the answer to be muscle attachments and nerve endings. And the sacrum functional anatomy absolutely includes all of the answers that were options. All of the answers that were options are the correct answer. All of them, not some, all of them. The sacrum, the keystone, baby, keystone. It has a big role in the body, structurally, functionally, and everything in between. So what I want us to talk about today is that number 1 answer, the muscle attachments and nerve endings. And I want to focus on the nerve endings because that relates to a lot of the pain that comes in clinically when your peeps walk in with pain that's related to the sacrum and the function of the sacrum. It's usually the nerve pain that gets them to be, sort of nervous. Panicky is kind of a strong judgment, but gets them to be super nervous, definitely focused on their pain. And I want you to know that all of the answers that were offered in that pop quiz about the functional anatomy of the sacrum are all yes. Like all of them should be checked, right? If you don't know that, that's cool. I'm going to fill in the gaps as we go. But the nerve endings is what we're going to focus on today. And I know there's a lot more people coming in that I haven't yet said hello to. Joan, you popped in. Nice to see you. Cheryl, hello. Joshua, hello. Lori, Len, Perry, I hope I said hello to you when you came in. Rhonda, Alan. Okay, hi. Okay, so I did say hi to everybody. You're all welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna dive in to our functional anatomy of the sacrum, focus on the nerve endings for today. And I also want to share with you that we'll go over the rest of the answers, the pop quiz answers, probably next week. I'm just looking at the clock and figuring out how much I want to share with you, and I'm not going to get to all the answers today. That's not a teaser for you to come back. It's just to let you know, come back. And if you're watching on the replay, then it'll be on the replay for you next week too. My pace on this content is to go as slow or as fast as we get to go so that you get your questions answered. The cool thing about Tuesday training is that it's community, right? You guys are checking in with me. I'm checking in with you. It's not a prepared slide deck. It's not like the official course or anything like that where we're running through the curriculum at a particular pace. So if there's questions or clarity that you guys would like, please feel free to participate in the conversation. If you're on camera, obviously I can see you. If you're not on camera, still unmute and use your voice. And last resort is please use the chat feature if you're here live with us on Zoom and ask your questions there. If you're watching on the replay, leave them in the comment section and I'll absolutely go back and answer them. It matters to me that you guys know the sacrum inside and out and outside and in and up and bottom, top to bottom, right to left. It matters to me so much because it makes a huge difference in the effectiveness of your work as a body worker, alleviating structural pain and reestablishing function. Makes a huge difference. So it's not just the keystone because it's the keystone by design, but literally I focus on the sacrum first, what I need to do about it, and carry on from there. And it makes it look like I'm hardly working. Like it's really easy for me to do that. So I wish that for all of you to be streamlined, clear, calm, confident, and not like nervous and spinning around and trying a whole bunch of stuff and letting your head feel sort of dizzy while you're in a treatment setting. I understand that's part of the process as you're learning. I really want you to get to that place where you're like, what's the sacrum doing? I know how to address it. And then you're good. All right, so we're moving on from there. So tell me then, what do you know about the nerve endings relative to the sacrum? Or maybe this is news to you. Maybe you didn't answer letter A and you're like, yeah, I didn't actually think it was nerve endings now that I'm thinking about it. Anybody here wanna venture a start of the conversation around nerve endings in the sacrum? Does it mean anything to you? Anything come to mind? Rhonda, jump in and tell us, what do you know?
So the nerves come through the central nervous system, and they go out the holes in the sacrum to the legs, and the torso, other parts of the body, but mainly in the sacrum through the hips to the legs.
Okay.
And they come together. I think it's L3, 4, and 5, maybe S1 come together and become the sciatic nerve. And where the central nervous system comes through the sacrum, the hole down the central hole of the sacrum, it's the horse's tail. It joins and braids many fibers together. That's about what I can tell you.
All right, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. And so I'm putting you on the hot seat, Rhonda. Thanks for going first and getting us started. And it could be a rhetorical question, but I'd rather if you answer honestly. Does all the information that you just shared with us tell you something clinically? Like, is there an implication tied to that information for you? Or are you still learning just where the parts are and sort of piecing it together in that way?
Well, it tells me that there's a lot of nerve action going on in the area.
Okay.
So there's a lot of messaging. There could be a lot of pain. There's definitely a lot of sensation. I think that's about what I can tell you.
Okay, cool beans. Awesome. I love it. Thank you for getting us started. Anybody else have anything to add about the functional anatomy of the sacrum relative to the nerve endings?
Yeah, I think jumping off of what Rhonda just shared was there's a lot of, I have a skeleton that shows like all of the little nerves going all the way from the cervical spine, all the way down. There's so many. And then at the sacrum, you can't even see the little sacrum on my little skeleton because it's just covered. So to your point, Rhonda, there's a lot of them. And I know you almost heard me say what I wanted to say about that. There's a lot of them. And then Gina, to your point, like nerves don't like to be, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. They like their space. They don't like to be smushed. They don't like to be encroached on. They like their space. So if the sacrum is the keystone and it's off or misaligned, then all of those nerves that normally play very well with other pieces and parts of your body are not. They're like, oh, get away. So that's what, thank you, Rhonda, for starting us off. That's where my mind went with what you shared.
Yeah, love it. And you mentioned the sciatic nerve, Rhonda, and most of us, I think most of us click with sciatic nerve. We hear about it a lot. Even our clients know the sciatic nerve. And that's cool and great. And it's limited though. So what I have found success with is patient A comes in, seemingly sciatic pain. Practitioners work the way they work to try to remedy that. but really it was the opposite side. It was the anterior version of the sciatic nerve. It was the femoral nerve. And I don't mean the anterior version of that nerve, so bear with me. I'm talking about as a balanced pelvic bowl and a balanced lumbar curve. The sciatic nerve serves pain down the back. The femoral nerve serves pain down the front. And it really wasn't sciatic pain. It was femoral nerve pain. And it requires a different approach to remedy that. And I've shared shop talk with practitioners. You know, I love doing that with all of y'all. And some of them have been like, oh yeah, the femoral nerve, like that was really the key. That was it. Great. And you guys, there's so much more. There's so much more than just the sciatic nerve and the femoral nerve. If you're still only clicking in with sciatic nerve, well, I'm glad that you're here. This is great. Like, it's going to open doorways for you to think about more of the nerves that are in that area of the body and what they serve, because what they serve is where the pain is. So I don't necessarily think you need to remember all the names of all the nerves in the body. And I'm sure there's an anatomy and physiology teacher somewhere on the planet who just felt like they had an earthquake in their room. I get that. I don't still remember the names of all the nerves. I don't remember the names of all the ligaments, because the way I use that information, the question I asked you, Rhonda, the implication of those body parts is where I focus now, more than in the memorization of any one of them in particular. I don't mean to say that you shouldn't memorize them. You should absolutely learn them and memorize them and quiz yourself on them, etc. And what you do about it now, once you're in a clinical setting, is what matters more than if you can name them. Because if you can name them and you can't do anything about it, you haven't created a result for someone. That's what we talk about, like being book smart versus skilled. You can know all the names of something, but if you don't know what to do about them, then where's the value really? And so maybe I've let myself off the hook a little bit. You know, memorization leaves me after I stop saying names of things after a while, like it does for all of us. But I still know the nerves are there and I know what to do about it, more than memorizing the name of each one of the nerves or retaining them. I did have to learn them at one time, retaining the memorization of all of the nerves. So I don't mean to say, oh, you absolutely should learn the sciatic nerve. You absolutely should follow the path of the femoral nerve, and then you should follow the path of all the other nerves. What I want you to know is, where are they and what do they do? Because if you know what they do, you'll be able to tie it together with a chief complaint, and that'll be what catches your ear. And then what you do about it is where your skill is, not in whether or not you can name off the nerve for the client who's barely able to walk when they come in. And so that leads me to the conversation today and this lumbo-sacral plexus. Have you guys heard this lumbo-sacral plexus? Yes? Okay. Which tells us that we already know there's more than one, because that's what a plexus is. You know that by definition, because we've talked about the brachial plexus before. A plexus is a bundle of nerves. A bundle. Okay, bundle. Used to be back in the day that lumbo-sacral plexus was sort of bundled together, for lack of a better description. And now they're really separating them more and more as you dive into your anatomy. And you'll recognize this. I learned it as lumbo-sacral plexus back in the day, figured out what to do about it, went back to the books to try to, retain names of things. And I'm like, oh, they're actually all dividing it now. How advanced and awesome, because it really is separate. Lumbo plexus and sacral plexus, separate. So what I just mentioned to you guys about the sacral nerve and the femoral nerve, that tends to lean more towards the lumbar plexus, the bundle of nerves in the lumbar spine. So bundle of nerves here, lumbar plexus, similar to how we've talked about up here, brachial plexus, nerves in the neck that feed the arms, nerves in the lumbar spine that feed the legs, and largely sciatic and femoral, for sure. You can see them. I'll show you an image. You can see them. Sciatic. He gets picked on a lot because of his proximity to the piriformis and his relationship to the sacrum. Femoral nerve really starts in the same place. Like I said, it's like the anterior version of the sciatic nerve, not to be confused. Just think about it in like landmark locations. Femoral nerve is in the front. Now we're looking at the anterior side of the body, runs in the front of the pelvis and then feeds the legs in that way. Those two nerves are what come to mind for me when I'm navigating the lumbar curve of the spine. We've talked about 4 curves of the spine over and over and over again. Please go back and watch those trainings here on YouTube if you aren't retaining that yet or don't have it yet. And that's fine, because we really need to have the lumbar curve balanced like all the curves in the body. And I've called us out on this all the time. As you're sitting here right now in real time with me, there is a great chance, yes, y'all switched because y'all just changed your posture because you knew what I was about to say. There is a great chance that your lumbar curve is going a little bit more, posterior than it's designed to. I can't get Murph to do that, of course, because he's bolted, but a lot of us sit with our lumbar spine touching the surface that's behind us, which means this curve is not balanced, which means the sciatic nerve and the femoral nerve are both being infringed upon because they are no longer in an optimal aligned, the way we're designed orientation. They're already going to be unhappy for sure. So we get a lot of airtime there, because of the sciatic nerves proximity to the piriformis, and also because of this chronic reversed lumbar curve posture that we're all in all the time. I catch myself 6 times a day, right? Like, oh, wait, lumbar curve. Oh, wait, lumbar curve, right? I keep doing that. I prop my pillows behind me and really make sure I have a lumbar curve while I'm seated. Because I'm not focused 100% of my minutes on my posture because I'm focused on who's in front of me, which we also get to think about when we think about the nerves. In this lumbar sacral plexus, the motor control and sensory receptors, motor control meaning how we move, and sensory receptors, what we feel, are largely already memorized by the brain and down in that area of the body. Our brain isn't thinking about what we're doing with our lumbar curve. Our brain isn't thinking about what position we have our feet in. It's already memorized it. It doesn't have to keep thinking about it. So when I say I'm not constantly thinking about my posture, it's a memorized pattern. I don't have to think about it, neither does my brain. It already did the work to figure out how to sit upright at one point in time. The catch-22 on that is that my body and brain figured out how to do this posture of sitting, how to hold my pelvis and my lumbar spine, but it didn't calculate for the fact that gravity is constantly pulling on me and making that difficult. So as I'm not thinking about my sitting posture, gravity is pulling on me. And if I don't pay attention and think about it, I will reverse my lumbar curve. So that's a huge piece of how people end up with nerve pain, sciatic pain, femoral nerve pain, etc. Just that memorized pattern and gravity's constant pull. If you know that going in, your treatment plan is so much different than naming the nerves. Do you hear it? You're like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do then. I need to teach them how to sit and how to bring their attention to it. I hope that's what came up for you. Did that come up for you? Was the treatment plan already writing itself as I was sharing? Sort of? Okay, that's okay. That's why we're here to practice. Okay, now when we get into the sacral plexus, because again, all the cool kids are separating it these days. When we get into the sacral plexus, what we now see is, wow, there's so much more going on than just sacral and femoral nerves. There's like so much more going on. Holy, I didn't memorize the names of all of them and I forgot them. There's a lot. Don't need to memorize the names of them to remember them. You just need to know plexus means many, and then remind yourself there's many. Even if you can't name them, be responsible for the fact that there's many present. And then what does that responsibility hold? Well, what you do about it. So the lumbo-sacral plexus together looks like this. So lumbo-sacral plexus, look at that. So now we're talking lumbar spine, and the sacral plexus is actually L4 to S4. L4 to S4. Now, we know that the sacrum is fused joints, so they're not individual joints, but we still can count them. If you look at the bony landmarks on the sacrum, you can still count them. You can see like the primitive leftovers of the spinous processes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then the coccyx. Coccyx is under my thumb, right? So when it says S1 through 4, don't let that flip you out. Just be like, oh, that's, you know, high to low, if you will, on the sacrum. How far down? Well, if the sacrum's only 5 fused vertebra and the sacral plexus is 2 above that and 1 before the end, that's a whole lot of nerve that feeds just the sacral plexus. And guess what? Now we're not just talking about the arrangement of the lumbar curve. We're talking about the arrangement of the sacral curve and the juxtaposition between the two. The relationship between the alignment of the sacrum and the alignment of the lumbar curve, and how well at their juncture are they getting along. It matters. It matters because the sacral plexus feeds. Does anybody know what part of the body the sacral plexus feeds? Meaning nerves feed body parts to be able to do things like the motor control and the sensory reception we already talked about. Anybody know where the sacral plexus feeds? What part of the body? Meaning, where would the chief complaint be present in the body if it was related to a nerve in the sacral plexus? Anybody know? Nope, I hope you'll tell me, Rhonda says. Or no, you have a guess, Rhonda?
Legs and feet.
Legs and feet. Legs and feet, and also most of the pelvis. Most of the pelvis, not 100%, but most. So legs and feet and most of the pelvis. How many of you with clients who have hip and low back pain complaints also notice something going on in one side of the pelvis and or one lower extremity or the way their feet hit the ground? All of you should say yes to that. Exactly. It's a little bit of a trick question. If you're like, I don't know, I never noticed it. Well, now you know to look for that, right? When we explore the sacrum fully in our upcoming course, Sacred Sacrum's coming up October 2nd, we are going to actually draw the path from the lumbar spine, poor Murph's legs barely hanging on, from the lumbar spine all the way through the pelvis, down the leg and into the foot. Most of the time when we focus on sacrum, we unfortunately miss some things by still getting super ocular about it, like, or myopic, just like myopic, just like focused only on that. Only the sacrum. But there is a direct relationship between the sacrum, the function of the hip, the function of the knee, the function of the ankle, and the function of all the joints in the foot. And not only does function matter when we talk about joints, but the alignment of those joints impacts the function, either positively or negatively. And we know that from our functional anatomy masterclass. Please go take that if you have no idea what I'm talking about, because it's a game changer. It'll literally tell you where to start your treatment plan and not to get hung up focused on the wrong place or go too soon to the wrong part of the body, thinking you're going to generate an answer or a solution. It really matters the order of things. So when we think about the sacral plexus, it's the lower legs, a lot in the posterior thigh, absolutely the foot, the pelvis, and it's also this bundle of nerves, the sacral plexus. It is anterior to the piriformis, meaning it's in front of the piriformis, which gets a lot of slack and blamed a whole lot for sacral pain. So what is the implication then of the sacral plexus being anterior to the piriformis? Where does your brain go with that information? I'm asking, and I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. I'm asking because, and here's how I want you to think. Just knowing stuff and writing it down, like the name of a nerve, doesn't tell you what to do about it because you have no implication in that data point. So when I'm asking you, what is the implication of the sacral plexus being anterior to the piriformis, rather than just write it down as a trivia fact, It's kind of cool. What does that mean, though? How does that change someone's chief complaint? How does it alter their function? And what does it tell you to do about it? And I don't expect you to have the answer, off the click, but that is the answer to those questions is what tells you how to put a treatment plan together. Right? Just knowing that it's anterior of the piriformis doesn't tell you what to do about it. So you want to think through the answers. I'm going to pause for a second, give you guys a couple more minutes to think about it. And I want to share this with you that this just came up in our community. I think I sent you guys a newsletter and said, I always like to answer with another question because I want you to think through the answers. I don't want you guys to be puppets. If you want, I don't think you do either. You wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be entertaining it to you. You would be like frustrated, right? Or maybe you are frustrated and still entertained, but it would be like, there's nothing here for me. I don't even understand what this girl's talking about. When we think in that way, we earn our badge to be able to solve problems. If we're only memorizing information and we want a yes, no answer to something, or a right, left answer to something, or a do this, then do that answer to something, what we're really showing up as with love is lazy. Because you want to be puppets. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. My friends, I appeal to you to be uncomfortable learning how to think through the answer and just know that I got you and I will make sure you get to the answer through your own brain power. Because if you use your brain power to get to the answer, then you don't need me in the room anymore to give you the answer. And I want you to be empowered on your own somewhere to be able to think through to get to the answer, not just have a sheet memorized, which still doesn't tell you what to do about it. So just notice if that's coming up for you. If you're like, I don't know why she's asking me all these questions and I don't know the answer to any of them. That's fine. Just pondering the question gets you to think differently. Having the answer is a performance act. So don't let your ego sabotage your learning by thinking you need to have the answer and therefore you don't like the questions. Notice that the questions are like, thinking about it in a whole different view now. Wow. Then you know that you're expanding and so that you can expand your thoughts when you're with your clients too. So that's the reason behind asking the question with another question instead of just pouring information into you, which by the way, you're not going to hear most of what I say anyway. You're not designed to. So that would be a waste of your time. Okay, so anybody have any ideas that come to mind for you? And be willing to be wrong, be willing to be courageous, and thank you in advance for participating. Anybody have an implication that rings as meaningful about why it matters to us that the sacral plexus is anterior to the piriformis? What does that trivia mean, actually? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, it seems to mean that it would be much more difficult to get to those group of nerves with a posterior approach. You'd have to approach it from the front, from the anterior way.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And that changes things, right? For deep tissue workers who like to elbow into someone's piriformis. Oh my heavens, it makes me cry.
Yeah. For the last while in my work, I really focus on the hip flexors, trying to release when people say they have low back pain or whatnot, and check to see what their movement's like. And once I release the hip flexors and everything, things tend to be a lot better.
Good.
And of course, focusing on their alignment and
cool.
That,
so does that tie into the relationship between the sacral plexus and the piriformis for you, Perry? Does anything new light up for you?
Not necessarily new, but
No?
reinforces
Reinforces
like
what?
maybe to check to see how people are sitting. If there's a curve, the way they're walking and the way they're holding themselves. And then gives me ideas maybe how to give them corrective exercises or how do I treat them in the treatment room. So
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think we get a lot of bandwidth with that approach when we're talking about the lumbar curve for sure, if we
yeah,
can actually see it. But if the sacral plexus is anterior of the piriformis, which is deep to glute max,
yes, yeah.
what do we do about that? Yeah, thanks for weighing in, Perry. Anybody else? What do we do about the sacral plexus being anterior to the piriformis, Lori?
You know, I was just looking at my muscle book on where I know that the piriformis attaches to the sacrum, and then I'm looking at the little dots on my book also. And those are where the nerves come through. And I'm like, oh, if something's going on in the piriformis that attaches to the sacrum, the anterior part of the sacrum, where the sacral plexus, the nerves are coming through, it could be a log jam, not a log jam, congestion.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And as we look at the pelvis, for those of you who are working orthopedically, I'm just going to take Murph's leg off because I feel like he might fly it across the room anytime now. As we're working orthopedically on sacral structure and alleviating pain, if the piriformis is here, and it's on the anterior surface of the sacrum, and it comes all the way out to here, whoops, femur, right? Because it does lateral rotation of the hip. That means that there is a relationship in function between hip action, specifically lateral rotation, between any structural, a structural imbalance in the innominate, any structural imbalance on the sacrum, the bone that muscle attaches to, and the joints on either side of the sacrum, the SI joints, and the juncture between the sacrum and the lumbar spine, which I said, this matters. Not only does the lumbar curve matter and the sacral curve, which is in a different direction, one's convex, one's concave, but the juxtaposition between them really matters. Folks get a lot of issues right here because they're either not treating this curve right or they're not treating this curve right. The sacral plexus being the bundle of nerves that runs anterior to this muscle right here means that all of the arrangements I just mentioned are all suspect to this kind of pain. It doesn't only fix it to stretch the deep six, elbow, the piriformis, which will always get a sensation from, or even just balance the lumbar curve, which I love to do because it's easy and it gets me a lot of results. But when it comes to the sacral plexus and the arrangement of this bone structurally, the structural balance of this bone relative to the other bones it's adjacent to makes a huge difference in the function of the legs and any pain that runs from the low back all the way down to the foot if we follow the trail of what the sacral plexus feeds. It's huge. It matters. Changes everything. So we don't need to be stretching. I know I've appealed to you guys not to do that anymore. So then it turns into, okay, well, now I'm suspect that it's sacral plexus pain. Are you guys wondering, well, what do I do about that, Gina? Did you go there yet? Usually you guys get there before I'm even done with the anatomy. Well, what do I do about it? I love that. What you do about it first and always is, if you're following the way I work, is remind yourself, what does the anatomy tell you? What do you know about the anatomy? If you want to memorize anything, it's memorize the functional anatomy, which I notice I didn't say names of things. Memorize the functional anatomy. What direction is the lumbar spine designed to be in? What direction is the sacral curve designed to be in? Where are the nerves relative to the muscles? What joints do those muscles move? Are those bones structurally balanced or not? Do you have a way to tell? We do in our method. You might in the work that you do as well. And then you put your treatment plan together. So I find that where we create stress and frustration for ourselves is when we're like, oh, I know what this is. Let's go do that. And my invitation for you is to pause for one more minute and do that strategic thinking thing that maybe you didn't like when I asked you a question, so that you can answer for yourself. This is where the anatomy is, and this is the implication if that anatomy is haywire. Okay, now I understand the function and the dysfunction, and now I can put a plan together about what to do about it. But if you go into what to do about it before you understand fully what the implication is, or even before you know the anatomy, then you're just trying hard. And you won't really know if you created results. I know that a lot of you tell me that when I have the privilege to speak with you one-on-one, where you're like, I know I want to do good work, and I feel like a fraud, because sometimes what I do works and sometimes it doesn't. And when it does, I'm not even always sure how. And I hear you guys, like I totally get that. As I promised you at the beginning of our time together today, my full intention on the planet to serve you is so that that feeling goes away and that you are creating results and you know how you're doing it. I want you to have that. In my lifetime, I want you to have that, because it just changes the game. You just feel like, wow, the body is fascinating. And I was lucky enough to be privy during this hour with this beautiful client. Amazing. Instead of, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't think I know what to do. I hope my client can't tell. Oh my God, they're still in pain. Well, they didn't do their homework anyway. Right? All that story comes from not actually understanding the functional anatomy and the implication of it. All of those excuses all stem from the same place. I know that because I'm one of you. I've been there. And it's so easy to get to the other side. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I appreciate that. I want you guys to have these answers. We are, again, diving into Sacred Sacrum. For those of you who are interested in joining the full course, we start October 2nd. We're running for 8 weeks. Sacred Sacrum is today's sponsor of Tuesday Training. We have bonuses each week. If you guys are ready to start early, if you register this week, you'll also get the interactive study hall with me, which is an hour of training. You get to come in with a smaller group of people and just get dark and dirty only on Sacrum. And if you register next week, you'll also receive access to the 8 weeks of the study group all throughout the course, October 2nd through November 20th. Oh, thanks, Lori. So the details are in the chat for us. Thank you very much for putting that in there. And that study group is led by our Schatz method anatomy advocates. They've all graduated from the mastery program. They're all level 2 graduates at this point, or close to being graduates. And they've all taken Sacred Sacrum a million times, but mostly they're working with the sacrum clinically because they're working the Schatz method. So they're running that study group. If you want to ask folks how they got from A to B, A to Z, and back again, that they're hosting that study group the whole time during the course. So, and it's included with the course if you register before the end of next week. So please, if that interests you, jump on that bandwagon. I know Cheryl and Lori and Gary and Rhonda, you're all going to join us. So I'm super glad that you guys, happy for you guys that you get those extra bonuses, and the training is continuing to go as we speak. And we're going to dive in the course into, of course, all the, does it include a Starbucks? You're hilarious. Do you think you need a Starbucks?
I mean, of course.
Of
course it does.
I would only serve organic coffee anyway with non-dairy fluffy creamer. So I don't know if I can do.
Bring your own beverage.
Yeah, BYOB, that's cute. But hey, bring a Starbucks if you want to. I would prefer a matcha latte, but everybody's got their own choice. But it does include a lot. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Ellen. Anyway, 16-hour CEs starts October 2nd, runs through November 30th. In the course, we're going to go through all the anatomy of the sacrum. Similar to what we did today, clearly we have more to cover: muscle attachments, then function, strength, stability, balance, what to do about it, common chief complaints and symptoms, and also diagnoses. Hello, Piriformis syndrome, which is actually bunk, in my opinion, clinically. We're going to run through all of those as well. Do you agree, Perry, on that funk diagnosis? Yes. Okay. I saw your finger and I'm like, wait, were you saying no? Because that's a no to me. You know, because the thing is, like, once we know the anatomy, then we're like, oh my God, this changes everything. But who, where, who, how, right? So we're going to dive into that as well. I wish the course was 160 hours instead of 16, because I clearly could talk about the sacrum forever. It's literally the focus of how I work. It's the central hub of the Schatz method. Everything begins and ends at the sacrum. So there's lots to cover and review in it. And I wouldn't want you to think that in a Tuesday training we're coming close. And also, I hope that you've gotten good value while you are here. So, you know, drinking, you know, a little cup of water here and there of sacrum, and then diving deep into the course, and then also reviewing it. So you'll get lifetime access to the course. You can always go back and review once you see a new client. And that reminds you of like, oh wait, I think we talked about this in that course. Yeah, you always get to go back and see it. And Lori and another one of our Schatz method practitioners and another practitioner also have all said to me just this week, so this is kind of crazy that my new clients that are coming are bringing in kind of this, like, I got to stretch to meet them kind of load. Cheryl, I think it might have been you actually. Was it you, Cheryl? And I'm not remembering it. Somebody just said this in group training this last
it
week.
was me for sure. And I think it was Cheryl last week. Yeah.
Cheryl last week. And then I know it was also So that, all that to say, your clients are going to know that you have the answer, even if you're going to have the answer tomorrow. Your client's subconscious knows you're the person for them. They just know. They're going to find you energetically. They're going to ring your phone and you're going to be like, I don't even know how this person found me. And oh my gosh, they're asking me a question about the sacrum. That's why I like to have lifetime access. Just go back and review so that you have it. And once you're in my community, you're always here. I don't just leave you hanging. Clearly, I'm here every Tuesday. So all that to say, that's all in the course. How many hours of CEs are offered? Good question, Alan. It's 16 CEs. 16 hours. We meet for 8 weeks, 2 hours at a time. Just enough to feel full and need a coffee break, pun intended, and then do some implementing during the week, come back for more the following week. And that's how we roll through Sacred Sacrum. Okay. Thank you for listening to our revered sponsor for today's Tuesday training. Over to you guys. Any questions that you have today on the sacral plexus, anything sacrum related, or also, as always, any other question that you have coming up for you on functional anatomy or client work, I'm here for it. I'm going to give you guys some open Q&A time. Anybody have any questions that I can support you with some answers, even if the answer is a question before the answer? Rhonda, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So looking at the workbook, or the anatomy book rather, it seems that the sacral plexus deals with tissue on the back of the leg and under the foot.
Mm-hmm.
And inside the hip, and the lumbo-plexus deals with the anterior leg?
Not exactly, right? If you think about the sciatic nerve, which is defined in the lumbar plexus, that's the back of the leg, right? It goes down sort of like the back of the hip in the middle of the booty, down the back of the hamstring, and some people will feel it past the knee, but it does branch behind the knee. So I wouldn't want you to misrepresent the lumbar plexus as being anterior only. I'll tell you this, Rhonda, in my mind, this is how I organize it in my mind so that I know how to focus on all the parts and make sure I've accounted for all of them. The lumbar plexus, and again, this is just my mode, guys, right? I've taken all this information and I synthesize it and then do something with it. I'm not saying that this is a memorized anatomy book, so please don't come at me. This is how I organize it in my mind. The lumbar curve needs to look like this. I've got the sciatic nerve and I've got the femoral nerve. The sciatic nerve goes back, the femoral nerve goes forward. Both of them traverse past the pelvis. So it still matters to me what the innominants are doing. but I have to focus on the lumbar curve first as far as my treatment plan goes. When it becomes sacral plexus related or lower leg, like lower leg and foot, which largely is not the sciatic nerve, it can give you sensation down there, but now I'm like, oh wait, this is nerve pain in the foot and the lower leg. I don't think I'm dealing with femoral nerve or sciatic nerve. I'm probably dealing with something lower. Now my sight goes to the sacrum and its relationship to the other structures I mentioned. L5, the right innominate, the left innominate, and both hip actions. Remember when we traced it? Brenda, remember when we went here? I held my finger up like this, and I said that the question on the table was, what's the implication of the sacral plexus being anterior to the piriformis? And I said, well, just look at what that includes. It includes the sacrum, both SI joints, the arrangement of both innominates, L5, and hip action, which we know is largely a deep six action, which is Piriformis is the spokesperson for that. So now I'm also in the acetabulum, and now I'm down the leg. So if I know that something more likely than not is sacral plexus versus lumbar plexus, I could work the lumbar curve for sure, but I know that actually something matters more to remedy those symptoms, and that is the arrangement of a lot more. It's harder, by the way. It's harder, right? That's why I'm bringing it up. It's harder. It's not just release the sciatic nerve and do a psoas release or deep tissue, the piriformis, to get rid of that sciatic pain. There's way more to it than that. Not to blow your mind and make it feel like it's out of the water. It's actually easier when you know what to focus on because you solve it. It's always easier when you solve it. It feels hard until you solve it. Once you solve it, it's easy. So to answer again, just to review, Amin, I think that book is Sig and Adams, Musculoskeletal Anatomy. And we also have a workbook in our muscles and movement course in the academy, but I don't think Lori was holding that up. I think she was I don't think she was holding up the book from that course. I think she was holding up the Sig and Adams book. So Rhonda, to loop this back around, the lumbar plexus is largely sciatic and femoral nerve front, back and front of the lumbar curve, and the relationship of that curve in its aligned position is what makes that those nerves happy or not. It's always alignment first, always alignment, always alignment, always alignment. And by alignment, I mean structural balance. And then if it's lower leg, foot, or any function in the hip or the leg, that would be more sacral plexus. And I have to think about way more things than just the lumbar curve. Thanks, Lori. Okay, we probably have time for one more question, just given the time. Anybody got a pressing question for today that I can support you with? Oh, we answered them all. That's fabulous. Covered it. Okay, last call. Any other questions that I can support you with? All right, my friends. Well, I have had a super fun time talking to you about the nerve endings relative to the sacrum and the functional anatomy of the sacrum. Pop quiz answer number 1. Y'all are going to go back and want to edit your answers, I know, which is great. We'll talk more about the rest of the quiz information as we move through. We'll do sacrum again next Tuesday, kind of keeping on our sacral theme for those of us who are sacral focused right now. And we'll meet again here next week for Tuesday training on that. If you're interested in, you're welcome. Awesome. Thank you. If you're interested in the sacrum course and the bonuses, please just heads up. We're moving right through the bonuses and our course then starts October 2nd. Please do join us. It's an awesome course. I haven't taught this course live in 4 years, so I'm really excited about it. I'm making it all fresh and new. It's actually not like the one that my mastery students have had because we're including a whole lot more detail this time that we didn't get to the first time around. I'm glad, Ellen, that it was helpful. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Rhonda, one last question.
Yeah. Obturator nerve, is that lumbo-plexus or sacral plexus?
You tell me. Where does it originate?
Don't know.
Okay. One more time. Sacral plexus is L4 to S4. So the way you figure out then which nerve is which is just to trace back to the nerve and the nerve root. Where does it originate on the spine? And again, I love that you want to know the details. And unless you can put an application to the details, it doesn't really support you to know, oh, obturator nerve comes out at this side or this side. Okay, cool. And then what? And then what? And then what? Judy says, thank you from a nurse and RYT with a non-displaced sacral flexure. Oh, I'm not happy about the sacral flexure, but you're welcome. Was there something more to your comment, Judy? Let me see. Diag. I don't know what that means, but I'm hoping that you're
diagnosis, maybe.
Diagnosis. Thanks. Yeah, probably. Thank you for helping with my brain. Focus on 5 places at once right now. I do hope that you're getting good care for that. I'm sure it can heal 100%. Just see yourself as whole, and it will be. Okay, my friends. So did you guys get value from today? Was this valuable for you? Good value? Okay, awesome. Good. That makes me feel good about being here. If you're watching on the replay and you're getting value, hit the like button so I know that. If you're here live and you want to go over to YouTube and hit the like button, that would also make me very happy. What we're doing with the liking algorithm is that the more we show the YouTube algorithm that there's value here, the more of the rest of our colleagues get to see the information too, because it'll show up for them. So it matters to me that we all win the game because we are needed on the planet to do the work. So we get to support each other in making that happen. So thank you in advance for all your likes and your shares. I appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to another Sacrum conversation next week. In the meantime, thanks for doing all your incredible work in the world. I'll see you guys next week.